Hello everyone, I'm Alex Puiu, and we will start our webinar at sharp 2 p.m. CT. Good. I think we are good to start. Hello everyone, my name is Alexandru Puiu. I am CTO and head of the data business unit at mindit.io, and I have a nice session to discuss with you about today regarding Databricks, adopting it, why, which are the challenges when you decide to follow this path, and which could be the benefits of going in such a direction. Why we have this conversation now? Well, it's because we see an increase in adoption of cloud for the enterprises within the DACH region, with increase of 60% forecasted for this year. Uh, Also, we know from practice and hard learnings that AI doesn't really reach production. Actually, only 5% of the generative AI pilots go into production, and most of the times the reason is the data is not ready for AI. The data is not there to be consumed and bringing back value to the organization through agentic AI or generative AI. And also, since DORA was enforced last year, 22,000 financial entities within Europe have been in scope, and there are many um, supervisors that are auditing for lineage and not necessarily accepting it based on just words. And that is a very powerful statement because traditional data platforms don't really offer lineage or advanced governance capabilities out of the box, which in turns end up adding costs to bring in data governance platforms that can turn the compliance. We at Mindit.io are a data and AI transformation partner, helping enterprises within that region uh, adopt AI capabilities, become AI native, and not in the last priority, build reliable modern data platforms end to end, and leveraging their data, which fairly is one of their most valuable assets, to drive transformation, to drive business growth, and um, generate opportunities and performance. That's why we are partnering with Databricks, Microsoft, and SAP to achieve all those goals. Today, we will be talking about why adopting Databricks and what's behind the technology, which are two adoption paths that we see commonly in our engagements with our partners, benefits that make this transformation worth pursuing, and where we, as Databricks partners, can come in, step in, and help. First and foremost, the biggest um, relevant point in adopting Databricks is that when you choose to go and adopt Databricks, you are not switching your technological platform. You are changing your capabilities. And that's why, from the technology perspective, when this kind of project is uh, driven only by IT, it becomes a technical upgrade, which is much more than that. It's not only about moving workloads to Databricks, not only about reducing the cost, although that is a big benefit that we'll talk about later. It's not guaranteed, and it only happens when this approach is taken with cautious, understanding the capabilities, understanding the um, um, pros and cons of the platform, and how you should deploy it into your organizations. When you look at adopting Databricks from a business capability perspective, you start unlocking value, you start unlocking ROI that's measurable and can be proven, because you start unlocking decisions, products, and revenue that before it was not available. Because we all know that famous questions: how many customers do we have? Well, when you have two, three, five systems where customers can uh, be managed in, when you have different types of customers, when you have different understandings of how many customers you have, because the finance looks at how many paying customers you have, the commercial looks like how many active customers you have. Uh, these become a bottleneck. You start crumbling in finding the most easy and relatable information, because the complexity of the organization grows over time. With Databricks and modern data platforms, you start co-owning data, you start co-owning with the domains that you have, and you can measure the success in time to decision, usage, and revenue impact even. And it's a continuously evolving kind of project. It's not one-stop shop. You don't do it once and then you forget about it. That's why most of the migrations ran over budget or take more than the time, and most of data analytics governance initiatives are predicted to fail by 2027, because they are very much taken from a technology perspective, not only bringing back value back to the business. Some of the capabilities of Databricks that actually move the business are, among others, Genie and AI BI dashboards, where the true data democratization really comes alive. And with the latest developments from Databricks, like with the business semantics within Unity Catalog, you end up finally in a realistic scenario where you can have one-stop shop for your semantic models. You can consume the same data and have the same business logic harmonized in a single place, managed and governed with ease through proper practices and organizational adoption. And from that, the sky is the limit, because you can query the data, you can have the same results, you can talk to your data using Genie workspaces, or you can build a dashboard in matter of minutes, not days. And that empowers people and business users to self-serve on the data. Don't wait for someone from the data analytics team to come and give the answer to their question. Of course, agentic AI is all around us, and data platforms are no exceptions. But as I was mentioning earlier, most of the AI fail just because the data is not ready. And it's a lot about the data quality that is questionable, is not trustable. The metadata is not properly designed to help AI consume it. And with the latest financial results posted by Databricks a couple of months ago, about 26% of their annual recurrent revenue comes from AI product. And it's one of the biggest um, proofs that AI is here to help us. And with proper um, platforms, with proper governance and solution design, you can actually achieve it. Um, One other important, from my perspective, capability is the zero copy and delta sharing mindset, which allows organizations to stop replicating data, but share it and serve it based on the need. Replication involves time because you need to build ETLs or ELT processes that replicate once or twice or thrice to different systems, then everyone consume it as they want, and that of course generate costs from infrastructure because those ETLs have to run, someone needs to manage them, someone needs to monitor them, so cost over cost, but the data is the same. The data rarely is different from one use case to another, and filters don't really count when talking about the use cases. So with the delta sharing capability, you build the data sets once for a domain or from one team and then share across the organization to be consumed and enhanced and new data products to be developed. And I think what's at core and one of the biggest foundations of why Databricks can really move a business is the governance by design mindset. With Unity Catalog, you stop making governance as a side product. Governance should not be a byproduct of a different team. Governance should be handled at core, at source. So whenever you build a new data product, whenever you ingest new data, whenever you make new data available through traditional means like building data sets or building machine learning models that you serve through to be used by different business components, that those assets should be governed at source in the platform they reside to. And with the traditional databases not really um, um, having so many capabilities in this direction, this is a big advantage that Databricks brings to the table. Of course, we cannot uh, forget the cloud native economics. First, one of the most um, impactful capabilities of Databricks is the decoupled storage and compute, which allows you to consume the same data in different ways with different computes. It allows you to um, have the necessary compute for the necessary time. So if for 1 week usually 90% of the department goes into vacation, then it can be a good thing to save on those clusters and don't have 20 of them and only use two because they will still serve the purpose. Of course, that brings us into FinOps, per use governance, and proper operational monitoring, where you can show back by workspace, by workloads, or by user who uses what and actually have telemetry on your data consumption and be proactive about how your organization engages with the data. And not in the not last, wider access. You have with Unity Catalog and with Databricks the possibility to bring real access to the users. Historically, business users don't really get access to the database servers because they need to install an IDE, they need to know how to write SQL queries. You don't want to deal with whole row level security because it's usually a tedious job to do that. But with Unity Catalog, you can achieve that much faster and you can actually democratize data and give real access to the people and not spend time on generating exports, explaining the meaning of the data to the business users and so on. You just give them access, they go into the browser and they can consume it in too many ways that I will not count. Um, Moving on, when it comes to adopting Databricks, we see two different approach. We see the greenfield projects, which is, as the name states, building a new data platform on Databricks, and migration, moving existing workloads onto Databricks. And these are different perspectives, different starting points with different challenges, but they both need the same business support. Because without business having a value out of this, understanding what new capabilities they get by using the platform, it will be months or years of, okay, you've switched to Databricks, now what? Why have we spent so much time? Why did we have to reduce our backlogs for this migration to happen? Because right now we are moving as slow as before or just slightly faster. When it comes to greenfield projects, there's the enablement opportunity and how it's wasted. What greenfield brings to the table is you can build a platform from scratch with the latest best practices from day one, latest capabilities, the latest features, governance by design, observability readiness. You don't have to deal with the depth of technicalities that 5 years ago you had to implement a flow because you already had the data, it was already there. Why don't you do it in that platform? And you had to take cuts, you had to take workarounds because you had to develop it in a short time. And it can also serve a strategy first design where you define the business problems that you want to solve with the new platform, with the new solution, and start iterate. Serve that, bring value back to the business, then extend and bring new opportunities into the platform. And also you adopt business users, you allow business users to adopt the platform much earlier. Um, where we see shortcomings on greenfields is it's usually built by engineers, which is great because you want engineers to own the platform, but usually if it doesn't serve a business value, it's just okay, we get to play with the nice shiny toys. And the business will be okay, I still need that Excel export because I want to do my Power Pivot. Also, um, keep with the true fast pace release from Databricks and from most of the software providers out there. Uh, Everyone wants to look into the newest feature, newest capability, do POCs on everything that releases every other month, and they end up not reaching production. Which, okay, not everything has to reach production, but when you start with the scope, start going that direction and refine. When you build scalable and modular, you get this opportunity to review and refine your developments during your adoption of the platform. And most of the time the scope goes too wide and you set the expectation that we will build this new platform in the next 12 months, and then during those 12 months we have to reduce the backlog capacity, we have to take more money from other initiatives to invest in this new platform, and it kills the momentum. Users don't want, business doesn't want to wait 12 months to see something. And of course that goes into building the capability that actually changes the business, not just adopting a new technology stack. When we talk about migrations, that's a totally different story. The biggest issue that we've seen with our partners is it's treated as a technology swap. It's possible to lift and shift from some technologies to Databricks, but it's not advisable realistically because with Databricks and with its technology behind, some traditional data modeling concepts change. They are obsolete and don't affect the development anymore. So it's new best practices, new ways of doing things that should change the mindset of the development teams into okay, which are the capabilities and how should we design? Instead of moving store procedures to store procedures, okay, how can we um, develop a framework that allows us to process data in a metadata driven um, setup? How can we build reusable components? And to be fair, you don't really want to reuse so many SQL store procedures or SQL functions. And also because when you're migrating, you have complex, long time developed platforms. It's easier to say like, hey, we want to make sure everything is perfect, so let's go with a big bang. And then you keep the business waiting and they don't see anything, they cannot give you feedback, they you keep promising them like yes, you will have access to this, you will have reports, you will have AI. They don't see anything up until 12 months later, and then they say like yeah, it doesn't help me. Plus, the complexity of big data platforms to be migrated in a big bang approach is huge and most of the times underestimated when it comes to cutting over the old platform and moving all the workloads to the new one. With that in mind, we are always advised to have an iterative approach when it comes to migration. Engage with the business early in the game, adopt new methodologies and architectures and capabilities like medallion layer, declarative pipelines, governing from the ground up, and do a replatform because I can assure you there for most of the things that you already have in the platform, some there is a feature or a capability that can help you do it better, faster, easier. It should not be the whole platform, but where you see the pattern, where you see the need, try to leverage the new capabilities. How we approach migrations, as I also mentioned, is through a very iterative approach. We assess and design which is going to be the target architecture, which is going to be the waves through which we um, go through. Um, Build a platform, and this is very important to have a platform team. It can be part of the team, it can be an external team, it can be delegated to the cloud engineering team, but Databricks is not just a database, it's a platform, and it should follow the platform engineering mindset. Then do a pilot, take a first subject area, migrate it end to end, prove that the capabilities are there, the business value is there, and then start scaling and repeat. In the end, you will have to only decommission the final waves, not to decommission a whole platform that is used by hundreds or thousands of users every day to make decisions. In the end of this presentation, I want to take you through three resets that we always advise our partners. Databricks is not a relational database. Storage and compute are coupled in those systems. Usually, the query optimizer assumes static row store. You have single copies. You have some traditional optimization techniques through indexes, partition, and hints. In Databricks, many of those are not relevant anymore. You have decoupled compute and storage, so you can scale out per workload. You can have two domains consuming the same transactions data, but they have their different computes scaled to their needs using the same underlying data. Engine is optimized for columnar partition large scale scan, so it fits the analytical use cases and deployments, not so much the transactional ones. Although there's a caveat, there's Databricks Lakebase, which is designed to be optimal for transactional workloads. You have a layered architecture through the medallion layers, through bronze, silver, gold, or raw, conform, consume. You have different workload types of business intelligence, machine learning, agents, all consuming the same data through their dedicated computes. And you have different optimization techniques which have to be maybe not mastered, but well understood and properly used when needed, like Z-order or liquid clustering, workload isolation, and so on. And a nice thing, Databricks comes out of the box with auto optimization capabilities that actually does a very good job for 90% of the use cases and workloads out there. The second idea that I think is very relevant when you think about adopting Databricks is how you share data. Traditionally, you have those silos with 1, 2, 5 data warehouses and dozens of um, data marts, and you start replicating tables and data assets from one to another. Then you start replicating them to applications, and once you wake up in the morning and say like, okay, we have 5,000 ETL flows, out of which 100 replicate the same data to 100 different systems. And that's not really nice to see, because once you start changing this data and data evolves, you end up having a hell of a time to understand the impacts of your changes, and most of the time it actually pushes back on the evolution of the platform just because of the complexity. Um, Leverage data sharing, give access to the right data for the right users using the right compute based on the needs. So uh, depending on the approach that you want to take, you can build data meshes, you can build spoke architectures, which is a uh, let's say, a specific implementation of data mesh, in my opinion, and try to leverage on those out-of-the-box capabilities. Of course, the compute should be consumed properly by the need of each workload. So you can use SQL warehouses for interactive SQL. You have streaming compute. You have GPU computes for machine learning training. You can have serverless for agents, which is well optimized. And the last point is governance by design that actually enables AI. What I was also uh, telling you earlier, it's important that you do governance in the base of your platform, and that governance should happen in Unity Catalog, where you have a single control plane for all your assets for all your consumers. You have lineage and audit out of the box within Unity Catalog, so you can always understand what are you impacting when you change something. So what you are impacting downstream, what what upstream changes impacts your downstream flows. You can understand how much you replicate the same data and how much it is consumed in different use cases, and try to narrow it down and compact those workloads to reduce redundancy. And um, you want to do proper governance on your data assets and build a reliable metadata of the data that Gen AI can leverage and can help you consume. Then, in maybe one of the least looked for areas, observability and FinOps. Unlike traditional database systems with resource governors and so on, it's very hard to really know who's consuming what and how much do they impact the performance, how much does it cost those workloads for your data platform. With Databricks, you can actually have this very fine-grained tracking and telemetry that allows you to understand the usage, the spend, the quality in each workspace, in each workload, or for each user. So you can really have a real discussion with your business, help them improve on the consumption, and also help them optimize their workloads. This, of course, will lead to higher quality of data management and governance, and better outcomes and better results in those agentic AI deployments and agentic AI adoption in general. How we help our partners adopt this technology is we start from strategy and ROI framing, picking business problems that actually matter to the business, define KPIs, and aim to solve them with the adoption. We then architect and define the operating model to be reliable from day one. This way, we design from the ground and from the day zero all the practices that we preach. Depending on the use cases that we identify and the needs, the problems that we are trying to solve, we also advise whether a greenfield deployment or a migration is a better approach, because sometimes you don't want to really decommission your old data warehouse. You want to start fresh, you want to start clean, and you don't have the burning headache of, okay, we have to get rid of it. And then we enable the adoption, we help engage with the business, train the business, have build the knowledge base and the mindset to understand which are the data products, which is the life cycle, what's the change management of the platform, and how it can expand within the organization. And we do that by following some simple design principles. We design for proven architectures tailored to each organization. We build to have reliable data assets and platforms, trying to turn the raw data into trusted business assets that are accessible to the right people when they need it, while avoiding issues with compliance and security, and also understand how um, the platform really brings back value. And that allows us to have clear ownership of the domains, of the data assets, build a unified place to have the same definition consumed by all the parties, build layered composable components that can be reused and not reworked, and standardized and transparent data movement practices. This is on very high level because I'm careful of the time. Our reference architecture when it comes to Databricks Lakehouse, which can follow different sources, relational databases, um, um, files, logs, documents, streaming data sources. We are big fans of the right technology for the right need, and we try to reduce the complexity of the platform most of the times when we can. And for that, we use a lot Lakeflow Connect for already onboarded data sources, partner connectors like Fivetran, and of course, we try to enable both batch and streaming capabilities because nowadays it becomes more and more common, although still 90% of the workloads are in the batch um, ingestion type of consumption. Uh, then for the transformation, we rely on out-of-the-box capabilities with declarative pipelines, with notebooks, traditional PySpark notebooks or SQL, and also embedding AI capabilities as in transforming the data, whether it's data mining or building new data assets using machine learning practices. These all fall under the transformation area, and then consuming this, relying a lot of data sharing, out-of-the-box capabilities like Genie workspaces and AI BI dashboards, and the newly introduced Databricks apps that are a new type of applications that stay close to the data and they serve the data fast, the same data that is consumed through other capabilities, and then the traditional consumption of data through Power BI or alternatives, business applications, revert ETL capabilities, AI applications, and uh, of course exports because we still have to export the data. If you are curious to know how your data platform stays in regards to a possible migration to Databricks, or if you want to see the maturity of your Databricks deployments, we can help you with that with some tailor-made services that give you a clear state of how your current platform looks like, some relevant business use case that can drive value for you, whether it's business value, whether it's cost optimization, or other types of outcomes. A gap analysis that can tell you, okay, where you are standing, where you should go, and which should be the most impactful things that you should focus on. We can help you with that. So if you are looking for such capabilities and knowledge, feel free to reach us out. And with that, we are at the end of our presentation today, and I think we also have some questions in the chat. So I see one from Gabriel, but that was answered. Uh, so what's the biggest mistake teams make when starting the Databricks adoption? I would say one of the biggest mistakes is what I was mentioning, treating it as technical only project. These new capabilities that become available with these kinds of platforms really change the way data teams engage with the business, and also uh, when it's very technically driven, it's easy to fall into the trap of testing all the shiny things before mastering the capabilities. I was mentioning earlier, some of the traditional practices, even when it comes to data modeling, do not really apply to Databricks anymore. Like you don't really need surrogates. Surrogate keys were for many years one way that you could improve the performance of your workloads in analytical systems because strings are not really good data types that you can join on. So it's easier and more efficient and more performant to do it on numeric keys. But on Databricks, there's virtually close to no difference when joining numeric data compared to string data. So that overhead, which is an overhead because you have to always recheck your data, see how you implemented SCD type 2, uh, is no longer there. And not understanding those new capabilities and practices can really uh, hinder the performance and the results of the adoption. How long does a typical Databricks migration take, and what slows it down the most? There's no clear answer on that. It really depends on the scope of the migration. So we've migrated um, platforms that were already in cloud that were um, uh, built over 3 or 4 years in 4 or 5 months with medium complexity, I would say. I think we are talking about 4 terabytes of data and over 500 data processing flows um, in a matter of 4 or 5 months, if I recall correctly. For bigger use cases, for more complex scenarios, it can take years. That's why it's important to not do it in a big bang and to iterate. When regarding the what slows the migration time the most is, I would say, first thing, improper platform design. So you want to make sure your platform suits the workloads that you will deploy early. So you have to upskill your teams. You have to understand how you design security, like network security on Databricks, how you design resource provisioning, and absolutely on board automation when it comes to provisioning of resources. Otherwise, it goes back and forth from data team to uh, cloud team. Like, I need a new workspace, I want to change that configuration, and it's a lot of time lost. And most of the time, this blocks the teams from um, uh, continuing with the development. Thank you very much for attending this webinar and for the very good questions. And wish you all a great day ahead.